Sandpaper is one of the essential carpentry and DIY items. Nearly every finished grade project we make will require us to do some kind of sanding, even if it's just knocking down sharp edges. But keeping a variety of grit levels can be a headache because it seems like something is always running out, and it can be pricey to constantly restock your grits. Fortunately, there are some tips for preserving the sandpaper you have and making the most out of your money. And that's what I'm talking about today on The Honest Carpenter Show. By the way, be sure to check out my new free guide to the 10 worst power tool mistakes. These are the power tool habits that I think every DIYer should avoid, the most dangerous mistakes you can make. So check out the free guide now at thehonestcarpenter.com and keep yourself safe. Alright, tip number 1 for saving money on sandpaper is one of the most important. Get yourself a good cleaning stick. Cleaning sticks are a majorly overlooked tool. They're basically just a big rubber eraser, usually molded into a rectangle, and they excel at cleaning debris from sandpaper grit. They're very easy to use. Just run your sander, press the stick to the abrasive surface, and friction from the rubber will draw loose material out. It'll clear sawdust, metal shavings, even wood filler and paint, and all it takes is a little pressure. To make your cleaning stick even easier to use, you can clamp it to a table, or put it in a vise, or just screw it down. Then just run the belt sander or a palm sander over it and check the grit occasionally to see if it's clear. If you're careful, you can even use this method to clean grinder flap discs and wheels, and it also works well on a variety of files. Allegedly, you can also clean heavy belts by soaking them in water with a little dish detergent, but this seems tedious to me. A good cleaning stick is faster, it's cheap, and you can put your sander straight back to work afterwards. On a more practical note, tip number 2, avoid sanding jags and splinters. Sharp spikes of wood or other material can tear your sanding paper apart if they dig straight into it, and torn paper will fail at a much faster rate. So look for spiky parts of your board and work them out carefully. Sand in the same direction the splinter is pointing. You can often wear one down this way without tearing your paper. Or if your finish level isn't that important, you can just cut and break splinters off at the base. Just be sure to look for and avoid things that will tear your sandpaper, especially as you pass an edge over that sharp spot. And tip number 3, watch your wear pattern. Newcomers tend to work just one part of the sanding pad, typically the center, but you have a whole field of paper to use. Remember to work the outer edges of the sander as well. Just be sure to maintain consistent pressure and angle while doing this, and you'll find that your sandpaper lasts much longer and wears down more consistently. Again, if the paper gets weathered and worn out in one place, it'll quickly become unstable. Tip number 4, support your loose pieces with duct tape. I do a lot of quick hand sanding, often just with a wooden block, which I keep in my tool belt. This is great because it's convenient, but you'll fly through loose sandpaper this way. It just gets torn up quickly. To make your paper more durable, just lay it face down and apply a layer of duct tape to the back. This will stiffen it and support it better. It's like a homemade sanding pad, and you can use it for flexible sanding or chalk it into a sanding block for flat sanding. No matter what you do, the duct tape will prevent it from tearing or wearing unevenly. And tip number 5, keep a lot of 120 grit on hand. In my opinion, 120 is the ultimate sanding grit. It's abrasive enough to actually remove material, but gentle enough to leave a relatively clean finish. Keep in mind, this finish isn't smooth enough for nice furniture, but for simple home DIY projects, you can sometimes get away with using 120 grit alone, especially if it's a quick project that's going to get painted instead of stained. For that reason, this is the only grit that I'll really buy in bulk, which winds up saving me money because I'll use it for like 80% of my sanding work. And finally, a little extra bonus tip. Cut off good scraps from worn out sandpaper and save them somewhere. These little strips and snippets can be great for detail sanding or hitting small spots by hand, and it'll save them from otherwise going to waste. Those are my quick sanding tips to save you money. I'll link some good sandpaper varieties down below, as well as some good cleaning sticks. I really think everybody needs one of these things. They're just so cheap and effective. Also, I'll link the guide to the 10 worst power tool mistakes, so please be sure to check it out. Safety is the most important part of carpentry, DIY, and woodworking. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll consider subscribing down below. I'm Ethan James with thehonestcarpenter.com. I'll see you next time.